The greatest battles aren't fought with weapons, but with silence, jealousy, and unsaid words. Right now, a covert war rages around you, one of envy disguised as indifference and admiration hidden beneath apathy. Elon Musk moves fast. Decisions are made in moments, power shifts in silence, and those who hesitate are left behind. This isn't just about money. It's about instinct, speed, and the courage to act. Psychologists call it cognitive dissonance, the war within when emotions and actions don't align. Those who envy you, who act distant or passive-aggressive, are losing that battle. They can't admit they admire you. But you? You are among the chosen. You see the patterns, the signals, the opportunities. And when the moment comes, you won't hesitate. Because the future belongs to those who act, not those who watch. The clock is ticking. The amusing thing is that you never enlisted in this conflict. You were just living your truth and taking care of your own affairs when all of a sudden, someone had emotions that they are unsure how to handle. We're going to tear the mask off today because, in reality, this covert conflict is more about them than it is about you. By the conclusion of this, you'll fully see why people struggle with their feelings toward you in private, but never come clean about it. Let's get started. The first is the invisible battle between their words and their intellect. Those that covertly fight over you are fighting against themselves, not you. Their mouth and intellect are at odds. They have powerful feelings, such as intimidation, attraction, jealousy, or adoration, but they won't express them aloud. Rather, they bury it deep in the hopes that it would vanish. However, feelings don't just go away. They fester and change into other things. At that point, the fissures become visible. They appear okay with you one minute, and then their tone becomes abrasive. You find them paying a bit too much attention, even when they seem to be disinterested. When you enter a room, their demeanor changes, despite their dismissive behavior. Even better, they could say something slick behind your back while praising you in front. The reason for this is because they are caught between their true feelings and the expressions they let themselves. Perhaps they like your self-assurance, but detest how it makes them feel inferior. Perhaps they wish they had your drive, but are unable to acknowledge it because they are envious of your success. Perhaps they want to avoid giving you the gratification of knowing that they are attracted to your vibe. Therefore, they transform these feelings into needless criticism, feigned apathy, or passive aggressiveness rather than digesting them like a responsible adult. This explains their seemingly erratic conduct. Their ego, pride, or insecurity prevent them from acting honestly on what their intellect desires. They rationalize their uneasiness by telling themselves, they're not that special, they're just lucky, or they think they're better than everyone. However, they know the truth in their hearts, and it gnaws at them. The "you make them feel small" impact is number 2. Individuals who privately disagree with you are responding to how you make them feel about themselves, not simply to what you do. You carry more than just yourself into a room when you enter. You also bring a silent mirror, and for some people, that reflection is too much to bear. What they loathe is what you reveal about them. They may not even despise you personally. Perhaps your self-assurance serves as a reminder to them of how much they doubt themselves. Perhaps you're motivated, and it makes them realize how long they've been putting off their own goals. Perhaps you're magnetic by nature, which emphasizes how difficult it is for them to get attention. They begin to feel inferior to themselves, and rather of confronting that pain, they place the blame on you. It's subtle at first, an odd expression, a hesitant compliment, an abrupt coldness. You think you're better than everyone, they could even claim, despite the fact that you never spoke. This is because they have already determined that you are competition, not because you think they are inferior to you, but rather because they believe it about themselves. They make you the issue because they don't want to face their own fears. They persuade themselves that you're conceited while, in reality, you're simply confident. They claim you're fortunate, but they know you had to work for it. They pretend you're too much, but in truth, your presence just makes them feel inadequate. The irony is that you're not even making an effort. You're simply living, being who you are and doing what comes easily to you. You don't wake up thinking, how can I make people feel insecure today? The thing that hurts the most, however, is that they have no excuse if you can do it with ease. That is where the conflict starts. It's about who people wish they were, not about who you are. The third is the phony ally who is covertly vying with you. In reality, you are engaged in a covert rivalry with some of the individuals who seem to be your biggest supporters. They pretend to be cheering you on, grin and applaud, but they are secretly upset that you are winning. They don't want you to fail miserably because it would tarnish their reputation for ever having known you. But they also don't want you to succeed too much, since that would indicate that you have formally abandoned them. What do they do then? They covertly work against you while posing as your supporter. Though they never give you credit, they steal your ideas. They pretend they're too busy to notice you, yet they follow your every move. They don't really assist you level up. They merely provide enough support to keep you near. As long as they can maintain a tiny advantage, they want to remain in your social circle. The most challenging aspect of this is that it's not always immediately apparent. These folks don't act like blatant adversaries. They don't come at you directly. Rather, they belittle your accomplishments, make sarcastic remarks, and provide backhanded praise. If you succeed, they'll reply, "Yeah, but I know someone who did it faster." If you're given a chance, they'll say, "That's cool, but I heard it's not that hard to get." The tug of war between secret animosity and sincere adoration never stops. Since they won't be able to see what you're doing firsthand, they don't want to interrupt you, but they also don't want to completely applaud you, since it would involve acknowledging that you are really ahead of them. They study you, which is the part they will never utter out. They observe your routines, attitude, and tactics because they know in their hearts that you are the genuine thing. But they are too proud to publicly learn from you. They seem to be your buddy while covertly attempting to surpass you, not because you oppose them, but rather because they have made you their rival without your consent. The fourth tactic is quiet sabotage, which involves stopping you without your knowledge. Since there is no outward dispute or overt attacks, silent sabotage is the most pernicious kind of resistance. It takes place in private settings, during whispered discussions, and via little, deliberate acts that first seem inconsequential, but eventually accumulate. These are the ones who subtly work against you while grinning in your face. They move in the shadows, carefully ensuring that you never push too far beyond them, rather than overtly challenging you, since it would reveal their nervousness. Controlling access is one of the main ways they do this. They will wait until it's too late to inform you of an opportunity. In the rooms where it counts, they won't say your name. When you tell them about something you should have been involved in, they may even seem shocked. It's a deliberate, covert tactic to prevent you from moving past them. It's not a coincidence. They will hesitate to suggest you for anything if they are in a position to do so, not because they don't think you are competent, but rather because they secretly don't want to see you succeed above their own capabilities. Then there is sabotage of reputation. They won't publicly disparage you, but they will sow doubt in others' minds with a casual, "Yeah, they're good, but I don't know if they're really ready for that." Or a more subtly, "They can be difficult to work with sometimes." They won't attack your credibility directly, but they will cast enough doubt on others to make them think twice before they give you a chance. The worst thing? You won't even be aware of it until later, when you discover that certain people have begun treating you differently for no apparent reason, and that some doors have never opened for you. The harm has already been done by the time you make the connection. What they don't realize, however, is that banning you doesn't stop you. It only redirects you to a larger platform where their power is irrelevant. The fifth is the shame of a coward who wishes they were you. When someone sees in you what they wish they had in themselves, a certain tension arises. Not only is it envy, but it's also shame, a profound, unsaid remorse that consumes them because you stand for everything they were too scared to become. They see your self-assurance and recall all the times they have lowered themselves to blend in. When people see your audacity, they reflect on all the times they remained mute when they wanted to speak. They are embarrassed of the times they gave up too quickly after seeing your tenacity. They are reminded of the aspects of themselves that they have disregarded, neglected, or abandoned by every aspect of you that shines. However, they choose to turn against you rather than acknowledge it and use that emotion as motivation to improve. In order to avoid confronting the unpleasant reality that you are evidence that they had a choice and chose fear, they persuade themselves that you must be conceited, fortunate, or insane. This explains why they have such a hostile but compulsive energy toward you. They are unable to stop observing you, but they are also unable to stand by you. They won't leave you, but they also won't admit how much they adore you. The tug of war between remorse and wrath never stops. The most depressing aspect? They could also be traveling with us. They may live freely like you, accept their truth, and take control of their lives. But for some people, it's simpler to detest you than to face the fact that they've been holding themselves back all along. They become dismissive, lash out, or throw shade because you make them uncomfortable with themselves, not because you've done anything wrong. They also realize in their hearts that you are not to blame. The guilt enters the picture at that point. They wish they had the guts to take what you have for themselves, not merely wish they had it. The sixth is the magnetic curse, which states that you draw those who are incapable of handling you. When your presence becomes unavoidable, an odd occurrence occurs. Even those who say they don't like you can't help but notice you. When your name is called, people may roll their eyes, but they still pay attention. They observe from a distance. Even if they may seem not to care what you're doing, even if they may be critical of you, their curiosity always triumphs. This is an unconscious fixation rather than just sporadic conduct. On the surface, they will convince themselves that they are only following you for entertainment or to make a point, or that they simply happen to notice your post. But in reality, you activate something deep within of them. They feel you, not just see you, and your energy draws them in whether they choose to acknowledge it or not. The irony of it all? They devour you more than your staunchest allies. Because they are passionate about what you do, your true supporters check in. But these individuals observe with almost obsessive intensity. They watch your movements, consider what you say, and sometimes even imitate your actions while being indifferent. They may even discuss you more than others who really find you admirable. Why? Because they can't ignore what you stand for. Perhaps it's their lack of confidence, their desire for achievement, or the freedom you have that makes them aware of their own limits. They get fixated on you rather than confronting the feelings you evoke, since they are difficult for them to comprehend. The worst part is that energy doesn't lie, so no matter how hard they attempt to push it away, your presence continues drawing them back in. The more they try to fight it, the more they sink. The seventh is that they owe you more than they acknowledge, the spiritual obligation. Between you and others who secretly realize they owe you something, there is a persistent tension. Perhaps the guidance you offered them transformed their lives. Perhaps you stood by them while nobody else did. Perhaps they looked up to you, studied you, and were shaped by your example to become who they are now. They will never acknowledge it, however. Why? Since admitting that they didn't get here alone would need them to acknowledge you, some individuals find it to be too much for their ego to bear. They like to think that all of their development, achievement, or metamorphosis was all their own doing. They don't want to consider that they couldn't have progressed as far as they did without you. Thus, they offer you distance rather than appreciation, rather than acknowledgement. They alter history. They behave as if your presence was a passing moment rather than a crucial one, as though your influence was negligible. In order to avoid facing the difficult fact, they may even persuade themselves that you needed them more than they needed you. However, they are unable to avoid the fact that spiritual debt exists. It's remorse that causes the tension people experience when they see you. They may act as if you never were, yet they are secretly aware of the reality. Their vibe changes when your name is spoken because of this. That's why, even when it's clear, they don't give you credit. Because your impact becomes more indisputable the higher you go, they secretly hope you don't become too powerful. The weight of unmet debts and unrecognized thanks is what's causing the conflict, not you. And the universe has a way of making sure that unpaid obligations always come due, regardless of how hard people try to ignore it. The eighth is the why-them syndrome, which occurs when you deviate from their anticipated reality. Individuals want to think that there is a clear hierarchy in the universe and that they are aware of their specific position in relation to other people. They have an internal ranking system that is often based on their view of themselves, their ego, or their upbringing. They have already made up their minds about who should be praised, who should succeed, and where they fit into that scheme of things. After that, you show there and ruin everything all. Perhaps they believed they were more intelligent, gifted, and worthy than you. Perhaps they thought that individuals like you should be the only ones to get success, attention, or adoration. Therefore, it causes a mental crisis when you succeed, shine, and are respected in a manner that deviates from their hierarchy. They begin to ask themselves, why them? Why not me? Rather than, can I learn from them? They refuse to publicly acknowledge that your achievement calls into question their whole worldview. It makes them face the reality that things aren't as they thought they were, that their own expectations aren't used to determine who gets credit, success, or skill. That's when the animosity begins. They can't just be pleased for you since your success causes them to reevaluate all of their self-perceptions. Therefore, they change their attitude toward you rather than their thoughts. To shield their fragile ego from the hard truth that maybe, just perhaps, they were never above you in the first place. They minimize your accomplishments, criticize your success, or pretend that you must have had some unfair benefit. What's the most hilarious part? They get more fixated on you the more they fight against this reality because, deep down, they're upset not only about your achievement but also about the fact that you disproved their assumptions. The ninth is the delayed explosion. When you're unstoppable, their genuine emotions come out. They first attempt to act calm. They seem unconcerned and unmoved. They persuade themselves that your success is just a passing phase, that others will ultimately stop noticing you, and that you will eventually return to the role they believe you should be in. They believe that they can repress their adoration, annoyance, and jealousy indefinitely. Emotions, however, are not like that. There's a limit to how much you can suppress until the pressure drives the truth out. The burden of their suppressed emotions becomes intolerable as you continue to prosper, as your name continues to be spoken, and as people continue to seek you out. Their mask begins to fall off. Their demeanor changes. The passive-aggressive remarks sharpen, and the subtle shade transforms into overt hostility. Then they blow up one day. Perhaps it occurs during a furious dispute when they finally express what they have been suppressing for years. Perhaps it takes the shape of an open betrayal. They betray you, disparage you, or abruptly start siding with those who oppose you. Perhaps it's an emotional outburst in which they suddenly and indiscriminately lash out, stunning everyone in their vicinity. To them, however, it has been building all along and isn't random. The irony of it all? Although they believe their response is directed at you, it is really directed at them. You did nothing to them, and you didn't change. You just continued to develop, progress, and surpass the boundaries they subtly placed for you. And they allow it to fester into anger rather than facing the reasons it upsets them so much. But it's too late by the time the explosion occurs. You're unstoppable already. You don't slow down because of the argument, the betrayal, or the rage. It just reveals what was already there, if anything. And once someone's actual sentiments are revealed, there's no turning back. 10th, the hidden regret. They ought to have been more considerate of you. Some individuals are unable to accept the sad reality that they had the opportunity to show their appreciation for you, but chose not to. They took it for granted, even though they had access to your energy, generosity, and commitment. Perhaps they thought you would always be in the same location, within their grasp. So they ignored you, undervalued you, or even harmed you. Then, however, everything was different. They begin to realize that you are valued by others in ways they never were. They observe as you get the respect you were previously denied from new acquaintances, supporters, or even relationships. They never imagined you'd be in the rooms where they hear your name whispered with adoration. Then it dawns on them. They made an uncommon mistake. They first attempt to ignore it. They assure themselves that it is not a significant issue. They pretend not to have given a damn. However, the truth continues to surface. Their sorrow over how they treated you grows as they see your success. It becomes more difficult to repress the memory of how they ignored you. They are haunted by the times when they might have been better, more encouraging, and more devoted. However, because blaming oneself would entail taking responsibility, they turn their sorrow into animosity rather than admitting they were mistaken. It would entail admitting that they weren't who they believed themselves to be. Instead, they mentally rewrite the tale. They attempt to minimize your worth since it's simpler than acknowledging that they were wrong. Examples include, they've changed, they think they're too good now, and they weren't even all that special. They may even begin to argue with you, initiate arguments, or act aloof all of a sudden, not because you did anything wrong, but rather because you became evidence of their own poor decisions. However, it's already too late by the time they completely get it. Now that you're gone, all they have left is a lingering, quiet sadness that they will never publicly acknowledge. 11th, the conflict between denial and desire, the forbidden attraction. Some individuals are battling their feelings for you rather than you, and they made you the issue rather than face the realities. You'll never be able to explain yourself to certain individuals because of this. Since acknowledging the true root of their emotions would require them to acknowledge that they have personal work to do, they are not seeking understanding. Rather, they are seeking a justification to continue to be angry with you. Thus, let them engage in their fictitious conflicts. Let them ponder, observe, and murmur. It is not your weight to bear, but theirs. Reducing, justifying, or defending oneself against projections that were never yours in the first place is not necessary. You're outgrowing the battlefield while they fight their demons. So keep going, keep changing, and keep becoming better. Don't keep it to yourself if this message resonated deeply with you, opened your eyes, or caused you to see things in a new way. Click like, leave a comment, and forward this to someone who should hear it. We're only getting started, so if you're prepared for more unvarnished, shocking facts that no one else will share with you, please subscribe to the channel and enable alerts.